All right. All right. And then we're talking about season 2 of Andor,
Yeah.
which was 9 episodes, right? Nine. It
Uh,
was nine.
I think it was 10.
It was 10.
Hold on a second. 10, 12 episodes.
12 episodes. 12 episodes.
Right. So it was like what, like four movies,
Yeah.
basically, right? Yeah, one.
So, well, give me your thoughts. We really haven't
All right.
talked a whole lot about it. What do you think of Andor?
So, just broadly, because like I said, every 3 episodes was like a movie unto itself, but just in the broadest of scopes for the whole thing, it was fantastic. I really, really liked this. I mean, just it, it's it was just so I don't know, it was just so good. And like, I don't know. I mean, it's it was amazing how they were able to tell like a story like this, which is basically, you know, the rise of the rebellion, but also the oppressiveness of the empire.
Yeah.
And basically the start of the rebellion and this revolution. And it was just amazing. Who would have ever thought we would have gotten this type of story in Star Wars, which
Right.
and I mean, I love traditional Star Wars. I mean, the swashbuckling, I think Mandalorian captured a lot of that traditional Star Wars stuff very well. But then something like this comes along and it's totally different and it's so good, but in a very different way. Um, and it's just incredible. I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can get into the nitty gritty, but yeah, what overall for you, what did you think?
I, I loved it. I mean, and I think I even liked it like as much as I liked the first season of Andor, which I loved the first season of Andor. This one just was even better,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, like I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it with this show, like what I love so much about it. But it's like, because it's like you're saying, like it's like I love the traditional Star Wars. I love the original trilogy. The prequels I'm fond of. The sequels I'm okay with, but like
Right.
like it's just totally different than all of that. You know, but like it was just so compelling. Like the story was so like you were saying, like who would have thought when we saw Rogue One,
Yeah, right.
that they're going to take this character who was really like a sort of a secondary character
Yep.
and build this amazing story around it. Like I mean, almost it's almost like, and I'm committed to going back and watching Rogue One, but I haven't kind of had a chance to do it yet.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's almost like Rogue One is no longer Jin's story; it's his story, right?
Yeah, I mean, too. So I did watch it after I watched this, and that was it's not a critique. It's just it's a little jarring because you just spent 12 episodes watching Andor, and then suddenly you get to Rogue One, and suddenly like, well, you're like, who's this? Like Jyn Erso? Like, what? Wait a minute, So it was a little jarring there, and then but once you realize, oh, it's her story now, and but Andor, he originally, right, he was a secondary character, but because of all this, he's has a larger presence, I guess. When he's on screen, you pay attention more so than you
Right,
did
right.
before, I think. So, yeah, so it was good, and there were some things in there that based on this, it was very like eye opening, where you're like, oh, that's why he's doing that, or oh, you know what I mean. Whereas
Yeah,
like kind of when Rogue One was first out, you're like, well, this guy's just being like contrarian, or you know what I mean. He was just kind of, but now you understand why he was doing that.
right, right. Yeah, it's I don't know what it was. What I was telling you is I actually at first, like I saw the first 3 episodes, I thought they were really really solid. And then the second 3 episodes came along, and and maybe it's because of the way I was watching too, because I had to like basically watch those 3 episodes in one night.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought those 3 episodes dragged a little bit. Like I wasn't not I just didn't. I was like, yeah. After the second 3 episodes were over, and I can't even tell you exactly what they were. I think there was a lot of Cyril in that, like Cyril's, the clandestine stuff, like
Oh,
the
right.
the Gorman Underground, like all that stuff was kind of like built at that time. Like that's what they were kind of like building in those
Yes,
three
yes.
episodes, and I got a little bit bored in those three episodes. Um, so consequently, like I wasn't like super excited about seeing the next three. I was like, oh, I'll get to it. Um, but the third arc,
Right.
the Gorman Massacre arc, was just like I sat down and I was telling you I sat down to watch it. I had some time. It was later. It was about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something like that. And I was like, Bridget was asleep. The kids were up doing their thing, and I was like,
Right.
well, maybe I'll put I'll watch one or two of these before I go to bed. And I started that third arc, and I couldn't stop. Like I mean, I was up until like 3 o'clock that because I was like, I've got to watch this whole thing,
Right. Yeah, because it was
and
amazing. I mean, it was just
I just could not. Like I was on the edge of my seat. I could, the um couldn't stop watching it. And that arc is amazing.
yes, that
And
was it
then
was so good.
yeah, and then the final arc was just, like saving, getting, well, no, the third arc is when he gets Mon. When does Mon leave? Is she in the third arc or the fourth arc?
She's in the third arc, I think it
Yeah, she's the
is.
last episode of the third arc, I think.
Right. They get her out, and then
They
the
get her
last,
out, and then,
yeah,
right,
right, right. And then she shows up again, and she's at Yavin at that point, and then we see her
right.
there.
And then
Yes.
the last arc is like Luthen dealing with the fallout
Oh,
from
yeah,
Luthen.
right.
Right,
Right, because the one episode's all about Luthen, where you find out
right.
his backstory and uh, Keela, right? That's her name,
No, it's
Kayla, Kylie. No,
it's something like that, but it's not right.
no, I'm gonna look it up now because it's gonna drive me
It's
crazy.
not Kira. It's something. It's with a okay, but yeah. But that was
Here
really
it is.
interesting.
Keela, Kleya.
Okay,
Kayla. That's it, Kayla. Okay.
okay.
Um,
Clea.
but
It's
Clea,
Clea. That's what it
Clea.
is.
That's it. I'm saying, yeah,
That's it.
okay, Clea.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
All right. Uh, but yeah, with
We'll
Clea,
get there.
I know, right? I know. Like, it turned out to be like one of the star characters of the whole series, and you're like, "What's her name?
Yeah.
I forgot."
Yeah.
But but you see whole like Luthen's whole backstory and like I thought that was pretty well done how they
It
handled that.
really was. Yeah. Like
Like
his backstory was great.
it was neat, but I thought it was also very just from a show filmmaking standpoint. Like we never see the outside of the ship. Like we're left to imagine the horrors that are going on outside of the ship that
Yeah.
he's on,
Yeah.
and
Right.
Kayla's hiding inside. And I don't. I thought that was really well done, and then he obviously takes her in, and she's like, "What did he? What did he say?" She goes, "Are you my father now, or are you my?" And he's like, "When I need to be," or something
Yeah.
like
Well,
that. It was,
yeah. When it's
uh,
convenient.
but it's yeah. It was very clever, and I just really like that, and just the whole other, just the whole, um, yeah, the whole his death, and
Oh,
he's the architect of the rebellion basically, and that was just done so well.
it really was. Even the scene where she goes and disconnects him from life support and stuff. Like
Yeah,
like on one level, like I was sort of like, oh, they're gonna have a moment, but it doesn't. Like he's just like they
yeah, he's
don't,
good. Yeah, yeah,
and it was like, and I even that, like I was like, I thought that was really well done. Like he just doesn't wake up. Like
right.
it's just that's just the end.
Yeah, like right there, it didn't have it
There
wasn't
wasn't this like scene with them or
yeah,
or like
yeah, melodramatic
right.
over, the rebellion, it was nothing. It's just like, nope, I'm here to, I'm sorry, I'm basically by killing you, I'm saving you because,
Yeah. And
yeah, yeah,
frankly, like it was like, sort of more realistic, right? Like that's kind of,
yes,
you know what I'm saying? Like I mean, it's just really well. Like I thought that was really well done. How
yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah. That's I don't know what that's called, but yeah, the whole like the melodrama of certain things that get inserted, and I don't think the show has that in a
right.
very good way. It's like here's what's happening. We're gonna keep going. It's like it's more
It's sort of like
realistic.
yeah, like
Yeah,
warts and all. Like it's just like this is the way.
yeah,
Like they're not like
Yes.
sugarcoating anything, you know?
Yeah, right, right. You know. So yeah, so that was yeah, that's a good point. That was really good though. And I think one of the things I really liked about it because things can get bogged down very easily, and they just kept everything just the whole show just kept moving. I never felt like it ever like you know even when they were setting stuff up, even the slower episodes, but that stuff while it was slow in the moment, it pays off later
You're
because like
right.
with the Gorman massacre, you're like, oh, this is what was going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right, right, right. Yeah, and then one of the other scenes that I just loved is um when Dedra finally confronts Luthen in the gallery
Yes,
is
right.
just awesome. Like that whole scene. And it was like they both know, and she's kind of playing this little game, and he
Right. Yeah.
knows that I mean, there's just that whole scene was just fantastic. And then the payoff with the knife, which
Yeah.
like I was not like I didn't know what to expect.
Right.
I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Like I didn't think he was going to die in that episode, or well, I guess he didn't die, but I didn't think he was
But
going to
yeah.
do what he did. I thought there was going to be some kind of, thought Cassie was going to come back and there was going to be some kind of rescue attempt or something.
Yeah.
And it was just like how that scene played out, or how that episode played out. I was like, wow, like it was just really,
It was. It was good. Um,
yeah,
because well, I thought because he shows her the knife and I forget what he says about it, but it's revealed, oh, there's a knife now in the scene.
yeah,
And then, he turned around and then she's talking, and I'm like, he's got a knife. I'm thinking the other way. I'm thinking he's coming after her,
yeah,
And then when she looks and she's like, "What have you done?" or whatever, and then you see the knife and you're like, "Oh my God, he took a,
yeah.
it took, I was expecting violence and action against her, and here he took it on himself, and I thought that was amazing. Just I was like,
Yeah.
"What? I didn't expect that at all."
Well, I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how that scene played out. And this I didn't even think about this at the moment, but in retrospect, you're like, wow, that's really good. That's great writing right there. Is when she comes in and she's like, um
Oh,
are there any replicas or
fakes, right?
fakes
Yeah,
or something
yeah,
like that? And he says something like, well, there's only two fakes here. And it's like
yeah, right,
talking about, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, wow, like I didn't get that at the
right.
moment, but like that's great writing right there.
It's funny. I saw somebody say the same thing, and right, you're just like, oh, it just works, and you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like I didn't even realize.
Yeah. Yeah, this show is just so well done. It really is. And like I mean for my part, like I know I don't even know what the response has been. I don't know if people were like up in arms about it. I don't know if people loved it. I don't know what the
Oh,
situation is.
okay, right.
Um, but I know a lot of people complained about season one, and they were like, "Oh, it's just not Star Wars. There's no lightsabers, like that kind of stuff." And like I gotta tell you, I didn't even miss any of that. You know what I'm
No,
saying? Like
no,
there was never a moment where I was like, "Yeah, this is not Star Wars." I mean, it just they're on Yavin, they're
right.
flying, and there's X-wings everywhere and TIE fighters and
Yeah,
stormtroopers, and like there was never a moment where I was like, "This is not Star Wars." I mean, it just really,
yeah.
really well done.
I agree. I think the what I've seen is people are loving it season two,
Okay,
so that's
good,
a good
good.
sign. However, there is always like a small contingent which is like, oh, like you said, oh, it's boring, and oh, there's no there's no lightsabers and all that stuff. And what I think is, and maybe this is probably just a generalization, but like the fans that liked the younger kids that liked the prequels, because the prequels were all about the Jedi and all about
Yeah,
lightsabers and the
right, right,
Force
right.
and all that. Whereas when we grew up, the Force that was part of Star Wars, but
It wasn't
like
a right.
it
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
a
a good point.
huge component. It was an element and we enjoyed it, but it wasn't. What I mean, it
It
was.
was like a mystery almost.
Yes, yes, it was very much a mystery, which is
Right,
why we were all in uproar about the midichlorians and all that stuff.
right,
But
right. True. Right.
but so for us, this era, this is really Star Wars. You know what I mean? It's like And so, but if you're more from the prequels, you're like, well, where are the Jedi, where are the lightsabers,
Yeah.
and you're more, that's what you're looking for. So I can understand maybe where they're coming from. I don't agree with them, but I kind of understand maybe where they were coming from.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think the show, it does operate at a different level. I mean, the show's smart, and I'm not saying that you have to be smart to like it. I'm not saying you're dumb for not liking it, but if you have to pay attention and be aware of like, oh, it's building towards something, and like these they're rebelling, and how do you do that? Yes, you can go blow up the Death Star, but there's ways to get there, type of thing.
Right. 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 Right.
You know,
It's yeah. It's like building what Luke uses to then, be able to destroy the Death Star. Like it,
right.
yeah.
One
Yeah.
of the funny memes I've been seeing is like, Luthen dies, and then Cassian and Jin die, and the whole Rogue One, everybody dies getting the Death Star plans. And here this like farm boy and a tractor trailer driver with his dog show up and get these medals for blowing up, right?
Yeah,
They're like
that's a good
who are
point.
they're like, who are these guys? Like where'd they
Where
come
have they
from?
been? They showed up. They've been here for like 10 minutes.
Right.
They're getting medals.
So
Yeah.
I've been
Yeah.
enjoying that. That's
That
been a
is that
funny,
is true.
that's
That's a
been a
good
very
point.
funny
Yeah.
meme. Um, oh, but yeah,
You know, one of the other aspects of this series, both first and second series, that I really liked also is this show. Um, these two seasons of this show like make the Empire menacing again. Do you know what
yes,
I'm saying? Like
yeah,
the stormtroopers are
yes,
intimidating. They're
yes,
scary. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's like I think we've sort of been like with the animated shows and all that kind of stuff, like they can't show any, and so it's sort of like a lot of that has gotten watered down, I feel
yeah,
like.
yeah,
And like this show, man, like when those stormtroopers show up in the square, like you're
yes,
like, oh man, it's gonna go
yeah,
down, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
like it's scary, you know?
right. I agree 100%. Because and right, and I don't. I think a lot of it a lot of it, I mean, it's meme culture, we're talking about that, but like, like Robot Chicken and a lot of stuff for years, people had a lot of fun making fun of Star Wars, but because we all loved it so much,
Yeah,
but even got to the point, like even in The Mandalorian, the two biker scouts are there, and guy can't shoot the can on the ground because he's got a crappy
right.
gun. And
r-
and what is Miggs made, he's like, oh, what do you think, I was a stormtrooper? Or like he was kind of
Yeah,
making
oh
fun of it.
right. Yeah,
He's like, I think he said he was a sniper, but he's like, what do you think, I was a stormtrooper or whatever.
yeah,
And so it was funny, but it works. And then when this comes around, this is like, no, the stormtroopers are scary,
yeah,
and like you forget that, because originally, I mean, when you first saw them, they come in the opening scene of Star Wars, they come in blasting, and these white ghost faced whatever, you're like, they're terrifying,
yeah. It
so
was yeah, that like the stormtroopers, and like I mean they're menacing. Like it's
yeah,
like when they show up in the square, that's when I
that's
was
yes,
like, oh shit, man, like these guys are like they're not to be trifled with, right?
yes, right,
And then the scene where they're trapped in the safe house and they're coming down the hall,
yeah,
it's like it's tense. You know what I'm saying?
yep,
Like I mean, they've really like like if this show does nothing else, like and it does a lot, but it like
yeah, yeah,
it takes that idea of stormtroopers sort of being a joke and like throws it out the window. Like no,
yeah.
these guys were trained and they were scary. You know?
Yes, and I hope they can bring that forward to more Star Wars, to just, like you said,
Yeah,
the show does a lot of stuff, but if you bring that forward, just, yeah, make them scary again, because that's what that's the whole idea. They're supposed to be scary and faceless, and
right.
like, yeah, yeah, I know. I really, yeah, it's just incredible, some of the stuff they did, they were able to accomplish. I really enjoyed sort of seeing how the Empire was messing with uh the Gorman,
Yeah,
like how they start out by, like they're like, the propaganda of it all, where
yeah,
they're like, oh, they're oh, what did that how did they phrase it, but they said something like, basically they're anti-empire, or
Yeah.
they just start picking at him
A
a
little bit at a
little bit,
time. Right. Little
yeah,
here,
here
little there.
and then by the end of the massacre, they have they have the news media there salivating, and oh, they were anti-empire and like
Right, right.
toeing the line, just what I mean, and it was just so uncomfortable, just because
It was. It really
yeah,
right. Like it yeah. It's
yeah,
really uncomfortable,
it
especially given the state of the world today, right? Like
yeah,
I
it
mean, yeah,
really
you see some of this stuff like playing
it's
out.
right. It's amazing that this was shot so long ago. I mean,
Right.
over a year ago, because I mean, it's playing out like today. I mean,
Yeah.
the stuff with the media really got me, where it's just like, they're just there salivating and towing
Right, right, right.
the empire's line, and not questioning anything, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
this is the reality we live in now, and
Yeah.
it was amazing. It was just very well done.
Yeah, and it's and it's like and it is because it was written before, like several years ago, right? So it's like
Yeah,
um but like, a lot of this stuff like this is how
it's timeless. Yeah,
dictatorial regimes. I mean, this isn't like, you know, this isn't confined to the years we're living in now. Like, I mean, this is how dictatorial regimes run, right? Like
yes, right.
they have a playbook, and this is
Yeah,
kind of how they run. So it's taking it, it's like that Hitler had his propaganda minister, and
uh-huh.
and Stalin had his guys, and it's just it's there's a reason they say history repeats itself,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. I
So
know. And so
uh,
it was neat how the Gore, they so apparently their language was somehow based on French, and then
okay,
they
I sort of got like French
vibes, right?
resistance vibes
Yeah,
from them.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so I saw a thing with Tony, not Tony, who's the show creator? What's his
Tony Gilroy. There's
Gilroy, that's it.
Gilroy brothers. Yeah,
Yes.
there's like
But
says Tony is
the main one, right?
the main one, right?
Yeah. So I saw an interview with Tony Gilroy, and he was saying that, just as an aside, that he's been always interested in the rebellion, but like, like World War II and all that sort of thing. And that's where he drew a lot of inspiration from. And he mentioned the French resistance and during World War II and stuff like that. And I just thought that was really neat. I mean, once you know that, and I mean, you don't even have to really know it. You can I thought it was pretty easy to pick up on during
Yeah,
those episodes where you're like, oh, these people these are standing for French people.
yeah. I mean, they're even like somebody was wearing a
The
beret, like so.
beret,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
They're definitely
yeah. Even
inspired.
Cyril, didn't he have a beret on? Like he
Yeah,
was like
sir.
he started like going like blending in, or like
Yeah.
I don't. He was an interesting. His whole character was
Oh
fascinating.
man. Yeah, I was gonna bring Cyril up before but
Yeah,
like, yeah, Cyril was like that did not play out at all like I expected,
right.
and and how it played out was amazing. Like, I mean, it was
Yeah,
really
right.
like his storyline was really something else. Like, it really, um, I don't know. It's like I liked it. I mean, it's sort of
Oh,
like who would have thought at the beginning and from season one of Andor that in the end Cyril would sort of be a tragic character, you
yeah,
know,
right.
that you would sort of feel sorry for him at the end.
Yeah.
And like no one, even at the beginning of this season, no one could have convinced me of that, you know?
No, no. And even, I mean, really, even a couple episodes before, he's like making his report to the ISB, the head of ISB, and he's all, like super excited, and like to basically be like, tricking these rebels
Right,
he's all on board it, but then he just slowly realizes, like, oh, I'm lying to them, but I'm being lied to.
right.
It just, it was fascinating. It was a very,
It,
very,
it really was. It was such a like how this guy who's just like, and it's like I said, like I feel like you know whether you love Cyril or whether you hated him, like Cyril had like was one of the most um maybe unchanged characters through both seasons. Like like he remained true
yeah, I
to
guess you could
at
say
the
that.
end. to who he was at the beginning, whereas
Right.
everybody else was changed. Cassian changed, and Dedra changed, and all these, like Dedra, like at the end is, maybe questioning, maybe she's starting to see some of the what's wrong with the Empire, but
Right.
but she's too involved and she can't get out of it, right? And
Right.
and but like Cyril was always sort of like, you know, like like
Yeah.
his
He just
justice, but his
right. His version of it.
interpretation of what
Yeah.
justice
Yeah.
is, right? And or Law and Order, at least. I maybe like say it that way.
Yeah.
Um, and at the end, like, and that was, I think he got involved with the Gormans because he was like, I, you got to follow the law and order, and I'm going to bust these people that are outside agitators on Gorman. But and they used that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
sort of like at the end when he's in the when he's in the square and all he's just walking around. There's all this like chaos. It's like it finally
Right.
realizes, like
Hmm.
what all it is, and
Yeah.
yeah, like it's crazy to me. Like at the end, I feel sorry for the guy
Right.
who I detested all through the show.
Right. But you're
Like
right. Yeah. It's like, right. Like you said, a tragic figure where it's like, the character, he wasn't being evil for the sake of being evil.
right,
He was doing what he thought was right. He was,
right, exactly right.
but then, yeah. Yeah. And
Like
then,
Dedra and it was doing evil shit, right?
right. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't feel like that wasn't Cyril's. Like Cyril was just trying to do what he thought was the right thing,
Yeah. Right. You
you
know,
know?
yeah. Yeah. And I love at the end there after the scene where he's all, you can see it coming over him where he's like, what have I done? What has happened here? And then he turns and there's Cassian, and then like he kind of, all his rage, he just focuses. He's like, here, it's this guy
It all
finally.
started with him, right?
Yeah, right. And then what does Cassian say? Like, who are you?
Who
Or
are you? That's the
yeah,
name of the episode,
that's
which
it.
is it's just crazy, like who are you?
Right. That's
Like this,
oh,
like it's been like Cyril knew who he was instantly,
right, right.
and
Yeah,
Cassian, like he was just a guy, he was just another guard, right? Like another
right.
police officer or whatever it was he was.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I thought that
It
was
really
really,
was.
yeah.
And that
Um,
fight scene, man, was
it was right.
wow. That was
It was a good scene.
it really
Yeah.
was.
I was impressed. That really impressed me because I did not expect them to fight. I really never thought they would even meet. And then when that did
Yeah.
happen, but then that was a good fight scene, and yeah, that was really
And like
that
Cyril
was.
kicked his ass.
I think he's right. I mean,
Like
it really
and he
he had him at the end there.
yeah.
Until the other guy ended up shooting him. He had him. You know,
Yeah,
yeah, but
wow.
just
I mean
yeah, like it was, yeah, so just so impressive. Just
it
oh
really was, like, I mean, yeah, I just can't say enough about the show. Like it was just the right, like they're so, and they had all these, like there were a lot of characters, so
yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, look at us, like we're like, what was that girl's name? Who was it? Who's
Yeah,
this?
I
Like
know.
you can't, there were a lot of characters, but I feel like all of them paid off, like all of them got, paid off in the end. You know what I'm saying? Like all of them got a good story or an arc, or
Yeah,
so like, you know like there was no fat on this, on the bone here. Like it's
right.
all just, just really well done. Like every character they introduced, even like Vel and
Oh, right,
Mon
yeah,
Mothma, and like I mean, all of them had like a good story. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. It was all right. Yeah, I really enjoyed was it whatever the wedding episode, but by the end
Oh yeah,
when she's dancing, basically having a nervous breakdown,
right, right.
and I'm just like, it was just, it was amazing. Just you're just like, this is fascinating. That was just so,
Yeah,
so well done. And I like the scene where I forget his name, but her childhood friend that had lent money to help,
Yeah.
save her. And then he was looking around. He was like suddenly looking for a kickback type of thing, and then he had to be eliminated.
Right.
And he goes to get in his little limo, and there's Cinta, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, oh, he's dead.
And and that's another one, like they like you don't see anything, you don't know what happens, you just know I mean you know what
You
happens,
right.
but it just like he just goes off and everybody, and then she does the crazy dancing and you just like
Right.
you know that she knows what's going to happen, and it's just
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah. I think
like
that I think a lot of the writing leaves a lot up to the viewer. You know what I mean? Like, but in
yeah,
a good way. But that's what I mean by it's a smart show because like right, like he gets in the limo with Cinta and they drive off and he's dead. He's dead. The
right,
characters know he's dead, but they don't. The show doesn't tell you that happened.
right,
But you have to pay attention. You have to
right,
realize, and there's a lot of things like that where I think they leave it up to you to make little jumps like that. And maybe if you're not watching it that closely, maybe that's why some people have a problem with it. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
maybe people maybe tuned in next week, like, where'd that guy go? What
yeah.
happened to him? You're like, dude, read the room.
Yeah.
He's
Well,
dead.
it's not a show you could watch while scrolling your phone, right?
No,
Like you
right.
need to sit and watch the show, right?
Yes, yeah,
Because there's a lot of nuance to it, you know?
yeah, very much so, very much so. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's it. The wedding, like, and I can't, and I guess we just talked about Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon
yeah,
Mothma. She was fantastic.
very, yeah, yeah.
Like the wedding episodes were really like I really felt like she shined in those wedding episodes. Like that was she was great in those three episodes. I mean, she was great the whole show, but those
Oh, yeah,
three episodes in particular, I thought she was really, really good. And just fantastic. Like the interaction with her daughter when she knows, like, well, yeah, the daughter's gone. Like, you know what I'm,
yeah,
because like
yeah.
her husband, and he's like, I don't know, I don't want to bother with all that nonsense. I'm just gonna sit here and
He just wants to enjoy it.
enjoy my money, and
Yeah, right,
and live in the lap of luxury here, and that's all problems for other people,
right, right.
Meanwhile, she's like the head of one
I
of the heads of the
know.
rebellion, you know, and her daughter like basically gets sort of gets sold off essentially.
Right, right.
Um,
But almost like willingly though, because like,
yeah, like not like in
yeah,
the right, like she
yeah,
just doesn't know any better or whatever, like
yeah.
yeah,
That was good. I saw something funny where somebody was like, imagine telling like, 1983 us that like Mon Mothma comes out, in Return of the Jedi. Like, imagine telling you that, however many years later that she'd be like the main character of this TV show and like have this wonderful storyline and like, be like this like gripping when meanwhile, she just rolls out and she's like, oh, many Bothans died for this
yeah,
information.
right,
Yeah.
right, and now she's like this critical,
You're
like
right. Well, it is funny because when you start to analyze, I remember at some point, like starting to think about that stuff, and you're like, well, geez, where'd Mon Mothma come from? Like,
right.
she was supposed to be at the time the leader of the rebellion, and you're like, okay, well, how'd that happen? Where,
Yeah, why haven't we seen her before,
yeah, yeah, and it's kind of funny, like even if you go back further, so she was on Yavin, but like during Star Wars, I guess she wasn't there at the time. She must have been off planet because they
Okay,
showed the control room and all that. But she wasn't there because George hadn't thought of her yet. But like now
right.
and when they've gone back looking at it, but it's kind of neat to be like, oh, that's okay, yeah, she was one of the key people, and we just didn't meet her until Jedi type of thing.
Yeah. Well, and it just just seeing um Bail or Organa
Oh
and
yeah,
Mon Mothma on Yavin
right,
having like like that was real, just, and it's a little thing, but
right.
that was really cool,
That was cool. That was very cool. And they we didn't talk about it, but they had to recast Bail Organa because Jimmy Smits. I got two conflicting reports. I got one that he was unavailable, and
Okay,
I got another one that apparently he has Parkinson's disease, and so I
okay,
don't know how. I don't know if that's interfering with his work or if that's just
Right,
like
right, right.
if that's something else. But so so they had to recast him, and I for one support it, and we've said it before, 100% support it. And Benjamin Bratt did a great job,
He
and
really did. He
I
really
feel
did.
like I mean, he must have gone back and studied because I feel he picked up on all the mannerisms like that. Yeah, I don't know. He just fit right in, and I'm like, great, this is how you do it from now on,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah, no more CGI, half-assed. Like, I mean,
Right.
I know people worked very hard on that to make it, but it's like, look, if you're gonna have it, just recast somebody, just be done with it.
Right.
And then you're not there, you're not looking like, oh, he looks all right. You're like, oh, okay, Bail Organa, let's go.
Yeah. And he did great. Like
Oh,
it's like you said, like I thought there wasn't there wasn't because I actually didn't I guess people knew that was happening before, which
yes,
I
yes,
didn't know until I actually saw the show.
okay,
And then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could see that, right? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
he's
like,
Bail
okay,
Organa now.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, I'm cool with that. And then
right.
it didn't give it a second thought after that, you know?
No, right, yeah, right, exactly, exactly. Yeah,
And that's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be this big thing, you know?
you're
You just
right.
do it.
Right. They've been doing it for years. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like the actors have come and gone for years and years. And I don't know why I think it started like I know I see a lot of people now talking about Rogue One, but with Tarkin, and a lot of people are saying like, oh, that looks terrible. And I think it still holds up. But
yeah,
I think when they did that, they wanted to do it to see if they could,
yeah.
which is pretty cool and everything like that. But now that we've gotten so far along, I'm like, just because you can doesn't mean you really should anymore.
Right. Well, that's
You
see,
know?
that's the issue is like I feel like the only reason the only reason we go down this path or anybody even brings this up is because it's possible now.
Yeah,
Do you know
yeah,
what I'm saying? Like in the past, like if this had happened 15 years ago, it would be like, well, we need a new Leia. Go get a new
yeah,
Leia,
right,
right? Like,
yeah,
I mean,
right,
that's how it would have been. Like, but now because CGI is it's possible, people
right.
expect it, and I'm like, no, it should be the other way around. Like, expect to to get recast.
Yeah,
Like,
expect right.
that's
That's
the
how
way it
you
should
do it.
be.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, no.
you can't. I think this is like you can't actors do more than just appear on screen. They
Right.
they act, right?
Hmm.
CGI is never going to be able to act.
Right.
It
I mean, they
just
can make yeah,
you can do community, and I guess people are well, Pixar and all that kind of stuff, but that's different because they're clearly animated. You
right.
know,
Yeah,
if you're making a if you're making a CGI character that you want to look human, right? Like
right.
I don't think you're ever going to get to the point where a CGI character can act like a human can act.
Right.
It's just not
Right.
possible.
You're gonna need somebody to do all that, and then graphic. But at the end of the day, it's like you want somebody to be human, so hire a human.
Right.
It's like aliens, all the other stuff. Great, go nuts, have a great time. I mean, with the CGI and all that. But it's like I don't know. From both just from the art and just even from a budgetary reason, I'm like, oh, we can spend a couple $1 million grafting, making Luke look CGI, or we can hire this guy who who looks like
Who sort of
Luke.
looks like Luke.
Yeah, this guy looks like Mark Hamill. Let's bring him in.
Right.
Okay, can he act?
Done.
Good. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And let's go. And then I don't know. Then you can all that money you would have spent doing that, you can spend doing something else
Right,
entirely.
right. Because
You
that's
know,
the thing. Like great acting is subtle. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like
right?
a
Yeah,
raised eyebrow or turn of the head, how your eyes look. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that
that's yeah.
you. I don't know that you'll ever get there with CGI. You know?
No, you're gonna have to have somebody telling it what to do.
Right.
You know, or they're gonna have to right like to have somebody sit there and act and then graft over the thing over top of it. I just saw this is related, but it was they were showing Harrison Ford in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and when he was de-aged, he apparently did all those a lot of those scenes. He did all of them as himself, and then they took that and using um, AI and the CG stuff. Then they put his old face over top of him,
Hmm.
And I thought it was just interesting to see how they did it. But I'm like, well, at least we know there's an actor under there for that stuff.
Right,
Like, at least all right. So, so if Harrison Ford does his normal stuff, then at least they were capturing that.
right,
You
right,
know.
right.
So I mean, but and I guess I would say in that scenario, like that's fine. You can de-age and you can, use that stuff for there because it makes sense. It's like he's been Indiana Jones for all these movies. It's his last movie. We're gonna de-age him. Like that stuff I'm more than willing to
Right.
say that's fine. But like with other things, it's like, you just I don't know. There's a time and place for it, I guess is the point. It's like there's
Yeah.
certain things like when they did Luke and Mando season 2 at the very end, if that was like had
That
been the
right.
if that was the only Luke appearance that we were ever going to get, I'm on board with it.
Right.
But then they did in Book of Boba Fett, he had like a whole episode, and
Yeah.
by that point, I'm like, and it frankly just took away from everything because I'm just looking at the CGI the whole time,
Yeah. Right. 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 Yeah. So
So
right. And if we're ever going to get, and I want that, if we're ever going to get
right,
a story with the original trilogy characters, it's got to be recast.
right.
There's no, it's got to be recast or it's got to be animated. There's no other way, you
Yeah,
know?
and I would, I'd like to see it live action. I would love to
Right.
see, that, but I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. I feel like they're afraid. I feel like they're afraid to go near any of that stuff, to be honest. All
Yeah.
the legacy characters at this point, because there's such nobody's going to be happy with how, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
If you're recasting, people are going to be mad. If you CGI, people are going to be mad. If you write a storyline that's even remotely off base, or I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just people are going to have a hard time. I have still to this day, the whole Solo movie. Who would have thought a Han Solo movie would have been not done well? Like
Yeah.
I'm like he was like the guy. He was the
Yeah.
man. And so it's yeah, that always I always
I still feel like that movie. I don't think that movie's that bad. I know what people
no.
hate it. I really don't think that movie's that bad. And I think
I
a lot of the hate that was directed at that movie was really intended for Last Jedi.
Yes, it was
It was
just
like
right.
people that were like dissatisfied with Last Jedi, and and all their hate sort of got directed at Solo because it came out like 2 months later.
Yeah, because it was like next in line, and it right,
Yeah,
you know.
but and then it lost money because how many different didn't they have three directors on that movie at one point?
They had the oh yeah, yes, they brought
This
in
guy
Ron
they
Howard.
fired right, the
Yeah,
guys that got fired,
they
and then
got
they brought Ron
fired, and
Howard
and
in.
then he had to reshoot a bunch of stuff, and like yes, it lost money, but yeah, it was I guess it was mismanaged.
Yeah,
It sounds like the who are those guys? Chris Miller and
it was the guys that what did they write?
they did the Lego movie.
That's right. They did the
And
Lego
then
movie.
maybe they did the 21 Jump Street movies,
Yeah, something like that. And they
but
did it like a lot of it was very like as I understand it, it was a lot of there was a lot of like
like ad
uh,
libbing and
ad libbing.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of that, like, hey, let's do this. Oh, let's try it this way. Let's do this. And so like a lot of money was racking up. And uh, basically it's that's not how you can't do a Star Wars movie that way. It's too
Right.
expensive type of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, and that's one of those things where I think in hindsight now I still to this day see people like, oh, Solo was really good, and you're like, but where were you,
Yeah. I still like that.
my
Still hold
only
up.
to be honest, my only issue with the movie itself is that they tried to cram in too much of what makes Han Solo in that
Yeah.
movie. Like he met Chewie, he got the Falcon, he met Lando. Like there's like the Kessel Run, like everything was like crammed in that movie, and you just didn't need all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
I would have, if they were planning on doing a trilogy, I would have spaced it out differently, and maybe not even shown some of that stuff because a lot of stuff you just don't need to know or don't need to
Yeah.
see. So
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway,
I was happy that him meeting Chewie and him meeting and getting the Falcon. That was the
that
two.
was yeah,
Yeah,
and then
that I think you needed to have. Anything else, the Kessel Run, I didn't need to see. You know, that was the whole
right,
thing.
not in that movie. That could have been in
Yeah,
something else. And I mean,
right.
as much as I liked Donald Glover as Lando, I don't know if we needed Lando in that movie for the
Yeah,
first. He would have been a great for the second one if there was a second one. Bring him in,
right.
you know. So they could have done a lot of things differently there,
Yeah,
and yeah. So
yeah.
anyway,
But but like I think like getting back to Andor, like
yeah,
this movie, you know, I hope that Star Wars takes some lessons from it. You know what I'm saying?
yes,
Because this is really this is what it should be. You know what I'm saying? Like we shouldn't be getting shows like The Acolyte. Like it should be
right,
this.
yes.
This is the kind of quality we should be getting.
And
You
that's
know?
what it comes down to is the quality. It's
Right.
like very well written, very like just very planned. Like I don't
Yes.
know, like I said, there's no fat. Like it's just like there was a plan here, and it was like this is what we're gonna do. Boom, 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 and there was no like I don't know the acolyte. I was thinking about that the other day. Like remember they were trying to be like clever because remember they told the story one way, but then it was really a different
Right.
way, and
Right.
like
Right. Right.
and it wasn't written well enough to pull that off.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And
Like,
right.
and
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 frankly,
like
the actors weren't great either. Like
no,
you know,
right,
they didn't help the cause. You
right,
know.
yeah, and then but like I can't even remember the characters' names, but remember the twins. One was air quotes good and one was bad, and then like the one episode they flipped, and the one all of a sudden the one's not bad anymore, and it was just like
Yeah.
where'd that come from? And
Right. Right. Right.
it just wasn't put well enough together. I mean, and if it had been, you know, maybe maybe something could have come of it. Maybe it would have been better. I mean, if you could have pulled off the I just feel like I was trying to be way too clever for what it was doing,
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, but it's like you were saying, like this, you know, and frankly, I think part of the problem we've discussed before, part of the problem with the sequel trilogy was the the planning just wasn't there. Like, I mean, there was
Right,
no plan for what you were going to do. This show, I think season one and season two feel like they were meticulously planned because even season one doesn't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't feel like it, it season two is an extension of season one. Like,
right.
you don't really feel like like it's all like one story. I feel like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
it doesn't. There's no. I don't feel disjointed going from one to the other. Like it's Cassian's character progression makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like
everything. Yeah,
everything. Like Ray's character. Like I think a lot of the problem with people have with the sequel trilogy is that her character progression just doesn't make sense the whole time, through the three movies. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Or Finn or Poe. Like none of
A
like
lot
the
of them don't.
progression
Yeah,
doesn't make a lot of sense, you know?
yeah,
Kylo,
yeah.
Kylo Ren, even, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot. Right. And if they had planned it out from the start to say, okay, right, here's the path. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's just, yeah, it's, yeah. I mean, I think you need somebody to come in and, I don't know what the term would be for the movie. I mean, the director but like the showrunner, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
Tony Gilroy, this was his baby and he planned it out. Yes, there's other directors, there were other writers, he had a whole team and all that stuff, but he was the guy that was, leading the
yeah,
charge. And I really think that's what you need if you're going to do, Star Wars, especially a trilogy like that where they're going to
yeah,
connect back to back. You got to have a plan.
right. And this was really well, just really well executed. And I mean, I think Tony Gilroy's done. I think he said that. He's like, yeah, this
Yes,
is
yeah,
I'm not doing any more Star Wars.
yeah,
Um, but I love this. I mean, I
yeah,
mean, he's really done something special here. And this I think it does so much. Like I mean, other than beyond just telling us, giving us a larger story about Cassian Andor, it like it sort of explains so much about like the Empire and the rebellion and
Yeah,
how
yeah.
everything got to be like it just does some really great things that we haven't gotten in
Right.
any of the other Star Wars we've ever seen, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And really, because I mean, yeah, these guys are all spies and all that stuff, but really they're just like everymen. You know what I mean? Like they're all like these are just regular guys that like decided
Right.
like we've had enough and we're gonna start doing something. And you see with Luthen, he's a disgruntled soldier that realized like this is wrong. This is not right. And
Yeah.
and he goes that, and even Cassian, the same thing. I mean, and he got thrown in prison, and he got radicalized because he's like, "What the Empire? These guys suck,"
Yeah. And even it's funny you said because I hadn't thought about this until you just said, but like even the Imperials, right? Like Dedra and Cyril and Partagast, right? They're
Yeah, that's
just
it. Yeah,
they're just sort of not, they're not Darth Vader and Grand Moff Tarkin. They're just sort of like mid-level, kind of
right.
mid-manager, uh, um, Imperials. They're not
Yeah,
like,
right.
you know,
Yeah, right. Some with ambitions, and then like you said, like Deidre only after basically she got busted that she like start to regret. I think you know what I mean. Like even after the massacre and all that, they show her shaking and pulling at her collar,
right.
but yet the next episode, a year later, she's still being evil, doing that stuff,
Yeah.
and only finally when her time has come, then you see her like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake, but it's too
Yeah.
late for her, type of thing, and what did you think? So we didn't talk about what was it you just said his name, the ISB guy
Partagast.
Partagast,
I think
right?
that's how you pronounce it.
Okay. So I really liked him as who he was and stuff. But so at the end, he basically is taking the fall for the the Death Star plans being leaked, right? Is that how you read it?
Well, yeah, but it's sort of like he's right. Like what everything that like sort of goes wrong in that last episode sort of is going to go back to him. So like Lonnie, that guy Lonnie,
Yes.
who's Luthen's contact, he was in he was one of his subordinates,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
Dedra, who screws up who loses Luthen as a prisoner, who doesn't capture Clea, who doesn't, like she screws. I mean, I think she didn't screw up at the Gorman massacre. Like that's
That's
how they wanted
exactly.
it to
Yeah.
play out. But she was always going to be the fall guy. Like, well, it wasn't us, it was her, right?
Yeah,
She's
right.
the, you know what I'm saying? So all of those things sort of get connected back to him.
Okay,
And the
right.
and the Death, I mean, we don't know. Like, they're not putting out there that the Death Star plans have leaked. I mean, I
Right.
guess the plans haven't leaked, but the
Yeah,
knowledge of the Death Star has leaked, and that
right.
all goes back to him. So that's why, and so he was going to be like, this was a world like in my mind is called back to World War II for me, is
Okay.
because that was like some of Hitler's generals um that didn't perform
Okay.
as expected. um that's what happened, right? Like it was like essentially you're going to get executed, but we're going to give you a chance. You can just
Oh,
do it
okay.
yourself,
All right.
and then it won't be a thing. Because I think that's what happened to. Um, I'm pretty sure. I don't quote me on this. But like I'm pretty sure Rommel,
Yeah. Okay.
who was Hitler's like. I mean, he was like this great. Um, he was one of their like a tank. He was like in command of their tank battalions or tank army, and he was
Okay.
like amazing in North Africa when they were down there. I think Rommel ends up committing suicide, and it was because of there was some kind of like he never got along. Like he and Hitler were always at odds,
Right.
so he was like more of an army person than he was a Nazi. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But like, so he they were constantly at odds, and there was some kind of problem. And I think Rommel ends up killing himself over it. And he was
Okay.
like
All
one of
right.
their great.
top guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's another thing that sort of calls back to history,
Yeah,
like
right.
that. So that was what I was thinking when I saw
Okay.
it.
Well,
But
I found it interesting that before he ends up, killing himself, that he was listening to
yeah,
Nemec's, manifesto. And so for a minute, I'm like, is he listening to this? And how is he listening to this? Like, is he listening to it because it's out there and he needs to be aware of it, or is he suddenly like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake? Like, is it like,
well, right,
is is he starting to regret things and realizing like, oh, basically the monster is never satisfied type of thing.
right.
Like, yeah,
That's how I sort of took like now at the end you
yeah,
see, right, like
right,
the because I mean, I don't that's what always happens to these guys that are like sort of minions is that they um you know when they're ultimately thrown under the bus, which
right.
many of them are,
Which, yes, yeah,
it's like that's when they realize
right,
that how bad it is, right? And
yeah,
but even dead, like Dedra, go back to Dedra,
yeah,
um or Deidre, whatever her name is. um she's another one, like in that moment, like after the Gorgon massacre, when she's in there like shaking and everything.
right,
I think she realizes she's in over her head, right? But what
right.
else is she, at that point, like what else is she
But
gonna do, right?
yeah, that right, right,
Like she doesn't, you know, again, like I don't feel like she's as tragic a character as Cyril is, ultimately. But like
right.
in the end, like I think she knows, but what else is she can't leave, right? She's not
Well,
gonna,
that's
it's
true.
not right. She's not, what is she gonna resign?
You're
Like
right.
that's not
Yeah.
gonna happen, right?
Right. Yeah. She knows
So,
too much. And yeah,
right, she knows too much. And yeah, so I thought she was like that. Her ending was really interesting too, and then she ends up you know,
yeah,
in
that
the
was
prison
sweet.
system, which is,
Yeah.
you know,
Which she'll never get out of until, unless she makes it till when the rebellion wins.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was,
I really thought that early on, I really thought that her and maybe even Cyril would end up somehow on the Death Star. Like,
yeah,
and that would be their
yeah,
fate. And you would realize, oh, I just got tricked. Like when they
right, right.
early on before they went down, when they were like living together, I thought, you know, I'm like, oh, we're getting sent to the Death Star. Like,
We're gonna live
some,
happily ever after.
yeah, yeah. I thought that was gonna be, and I thought that would have been. I mean, I was more than pleased with how everything turned out, but I thought that would have been a funny, like a clever way to do it too.
That would have been good to have somebody like ultimately. I
Yeah, right.
you know what, the other thing I liked, and I didn't, it was I recognized the names when they were said, um, but I liked that they were name dropping, um, some of these characters that we know from the original trilogy, like the some of the Imperials that were in that room with Darth Vader. Yeah,
Oh,
you know what
right.
I'm saying? Like, and we never saw them, but they just sort of dropped their names. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. What was it? The guy he's in charge of ISB, Major Urlin, I think it is, or something like that. Yeah, something Commander,
Yeah.
I forget, but yeah, yeah, they had name dropped some names like that. Yes, that was clever. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and that was just again just a small thing, but I thought that was cool. You didn't need to see them; they
Right.
just dropped the name, and I was like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
recognize that name."
yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't even know
I,
which guy at the table he is, but I recognize
right.
the name.
Two things. I saw in that original scene in the Death Star when they're in there and Darth Vader chokes the guy and all that stuff. There's an empty chair in that room, and
Uh-huh.
so that everyone's like, that's Krennic's chair, but
Oh,
he's not there because he got killed in Rogue One. And
that's
I don't
cool.
know if that's canon or not, but I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I
that
like
would be
that.
cool.
Yeah,
Krennic was great in this show
he
too. I
was
mean, he was really good. There's just
he
so
was
much.
really good.
I'm trying to think of everything that's great in this show.
That's
Krennic
I
was
mean
great.
I mean, nobody gave a bad. I mean, everything was good. Like that's what I mean. That's what was so. A lot of times you can pick and choose. You can say, oh, I didn't. That guy was all right, or oh, I was disappointed. But everything was just so good. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say is and even like some people from Rogue One couldn't make it back for the show for whatever reason. Like Bail Organa, they recast, but like I don't remember the name. Merrick, the one, the blue. He had a mustache. He was one of the pilots for the X-Wings. He was like kind of floating around a lot
Oh
during
yeah,
Rogue
yeah,
One. He
yeah.
gets killed, but yeah, they made a point. They're like, oh, Merrick and General
Oh right,
Donna are somewhere. So they explained at least why they weren't there. It was just a throwaway line. That's all you
yeah,
needed. You know what I mean? It was like, they didn't have to CGI recreate anybody. They just
right, right,
they said, no, they're not here right now. Yeah, but it was just stuff like that where they're like, just keeping things consistent and just, being that's all that that's all you want
right.
is just,
Yavin looked. I thought the Yavin base looked really
that
cool.
was fun, yeah. And that was
You,
cool to see more of it too,
yeah.
like
Well,
the
you know what it looked like to me, and have you played that Star Wars Battlegrounds game? I don't know if you've ever played.
Battlegrounds. Which one was
It was
that?
like the new game that came out. I mean, newer. I mean, it's a few years old now, but it came out
Oh,
for, was it Battlegrounds?
Battlefront?
Battlefront.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, when they were walking around Yavin, it looks like to me, I was like, oh, that's like it because there's um a map where you're running around Yavin
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, that was
and
in that, yeah.
in Battlefront, and it's like a first person
Oh,
shooter thing, and you're running around Yavin, and I was like, oh, it kind of looks like the
oh, that's
map from
cool.
Battlefront,
That's pretty cool.
like how they had the I don't know if they're huts or tents or whatever. I was like, it's sort of like
Yeah.
that's how they looked in the game.
Oh, yeah. That must have been in because I had Battlefront the first one, but I didn't have the second one, I
Yeah,
think.
all right, so Battlefront originally came out for PS2 and it was more rudimentary. And then
Yeah.
a few years ago it came out for PS4 and it was really like
Right.
photorealistic kind of thing. And it
Yeah.
looked amazing. And that's the
Okay.
one I'm thinking of.
Okay. Yeah. I had one with Xbox, but I had Battlefront for that. But then I think they came out with Battlefront 2, and
Yes.
I didn't get that one. So maybe that's what it was part. Anyway, whatever it was, I don't remember. I don't think I had it. But that's pretty cool to see the consistency there that they actually went
Yeah.
back and referenced it, like, oh, here's what it looks like. Let's recreate this.
Yeah. That was really neat. And what was the other thing I guess we can't wrap up without talking about this, like the end with Bix.
Yeah,
And the
right.
kid, right? Like, so that's clearly Cassian's son, right?
Right.
Um, maybe we get a Cassian Junior adventure,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, I mean, so one of the funny things is that so from the sequels, Poe Dameron, his parents in the lore, his parents were actually based on uh Yavin, and I think that's where he was born.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people, when they saw Cassian's son, everyone's like, "Oh my God, is that Poe Dameron?" And it wasn't, because it's different characters and different people, and Poe Dameron's parents were already established. However, I think he's born on I'm sorry, he's born on Yavin after Return of the Jedi.
Okay.
So there is a bit of a little gap there between them, but but it was interesting to see people making that connection. They're like, "Oh wait, could that be possibly be Poe Dameron?" But Cassian's son and Bix could survive and be around for the First Order when they were, when they come into town.
Right.
So that character could show up somewhere. So that could be very interesting, if they choose to go that way. I mean, it would be nice to think he just lived happily ever after on that farm planet, but
Yeah. With the droid that I really liked.
I like,
I was sad that the droid never saw him again.
I
That made me
know,
upset.
but it made me very happy because the last episode, the droid, he's like running around. He's almost like he's like zipping around and he's playing with another droid.
Yeah.
And he said something like, "I'll get you this time," or whatever. They were just
Yeah.
playing, and it just made me. This is
I
so
did.
stupid.
It did. It was
Yeah,
stupid, but
right.
it did make me happy. Yes.
I know. I'm like,
I
God,
like
he
that
hasn't.
droid.
I'm like, BMO, B2 emo, right? B2
Yeah.
emo. Yeah. Here. Oops. I have a.
Well, because it's like he's like,
There
oh
we
yeah,
go.
yeah, that's him. He's
But
because he's, I don't know, like he's kind of like
he was like, so,
attached to him.
yeah, he like all stuttered and had, like was
Yeah,
all like Circassian.
yeah,
But he was, I just read something where he was like, they based him off of like an old dog. And they said,
Yeah.
he's like this old dog that's, and just loyal. And I don't know. But like I said, it made me sad. But that was nice to know the Bix, because for a while after they left that planet, you're like, hey, where's B at?
I
Where's
know.
the, yeah. I'm like,
I did occasionally. I was like, oh, did B make it to Yavin with them?
yeah, I know. And so it was cute. That was a cute thing at the end to see that you're like, oh, good. Okay. He's there at least. He's
Yeah,
safe.
and I'll be there with Cassian's son. So that's good.
Right.
That's cool.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah,
no, that was all good. I was just made me laugh so hard because I'm just like, I was just so touched when I saw him with his friend.
I
I'm like,
know.
oh, he has a
And it
friend.
is, and it's stupid, but I was like, oh, good. So I'm glad we got to see B again.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I love that little droid.
I know. Oh, what did you think of we didn't talk about K2SO either,
Oh, K2 was
right?
amazing. Yeah,
When they introduced the first one, they just this the K droids coming in just kicking and blasting
oh
things apart,
yeah.
just how scary they were,
Yeah.
that was really good. And then once they got him and reprogrammed him, it was just that was just
Oh,
that was
he was great.
he was very
There were a couple, he was like, I'm glad we finally got him. I wish he'd been in more than like one episode, but like,
I agree, yeah.
but like he was great. Like when he's like he's trying to get Cassian to say thank you or whatever, and Cassian's just not having it or whatever. Like I don't know. He was great.
He was just like just
Um,
all
when he's in the
sassy.
ship and he's trying to contact him and it doesn't work, and
He's like, uh-oh, right, yeah. No, that
and
was
then
good.
he used that one guy,
Oh my
that
God,
one
yeah.
as the shield. That was amazing.
That was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I,
I know.
I
I wish he was in more episodes. I would happily watch more of him. I saw something where they said basically they're like he's so hard because he's like once he shows up, it's like you can't hide him. You can't
right.
there's all these things that he's just very hard to write around type of thing. So I but
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm happy we got what we got, but I would love to see more.
Yeah, he was fantastic, you know.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, all his he was I can't even remember any specific
I
lines, but
know,
all
I
through that
know.
show he was great.
Right. Yeah, everything he said was funny and amusing.
Yeah.
It just, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, he was really good.
Yeah,
Um,
I man, I love the show. I
I
really did.
really
I
did.
they just I actually want to I kind of want to go back and like watch all of them now. If I had
Yes.
I don't know when I'm going to have time to do that, but watch season one and season two,
Well, I did
and then
watch,
watch
yeah.
Rogue One.
Yeah, so I watched leading up to season two. I watched season one again, and really liked it and enjoyed it again. And then season two I watched, and then the next night I said, "All right, I finished up season two. I'm going to watch Rogue One," and I did that, and it all holds up good. Like I said, it is slightly jarring to be like, "Well, wait a minute, I thought Cassian was the main character."
Yeah.
It did what it did. What actually, that I will say, what it did make me want to do was find out more about Jen Urso because and Saul Guerrero because like we didn't even talk about Saul Guerrero,
Yeah,
but
we didn't talk about
um,
Saul, who was also great.
right. But because like it opens up with her as a little girl and her mother getting killed and Galen getting taken back to work on the Death Star, and then it jumps like what 15 years or something
Right,
to
right.
present day, and so there's apparently a book out there that it's a young adult novel. So I'm one of those. I'm like, people are saying it's very good, but it fills in a lot of her backstory. And
Okay.
I was sort of like, I'm like, do I want to track that down? Because I'm like, the books are hit or miss, but people are saying that that's very good. And then there's another novel. It's called Catalyst, and it's more about like Galen Erso and the Death Star and stuff
Oh,
like
that's
that.
interesting.
And so now I thought about that too. I'm like, well, maybe I'll check that out because if I get
Yeah.
something, looking for something to read or something. So I was thinking about doing, looking into that. So, but yeah, the books are hit or miss sometimes. So I
Yeah.
always, I don't buy them. Like I used to try to. I don't want to say I read all the books by any means, but I would read some here and there and anymore. I just got disappointed enough where now it actually takes a great effort for me to go buy one of the books now, but because they're hit or miss, so hit
Yeah.
or miss.
And I
And
wouldn't want it to be like watered down, like because you know what I'm saying, like kind of like after getting this, you wouldn't want to go and like,
yeah,
you know,
well, sometimes the books, right? They're so specific and they're trying to fill in like this one little gap, but they don't want to go any further than that because
right, right,
they don't
right.
want to step on anybody's toes. And so you're like, is it worth my time, basically? Because it takes me a while to like a whole book like that. It's like if I'm like on vacation or if I'm somewhere, I'll read something, but then if I'm not, I don't sit down and read it,
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm terrible with reading anymore. I used to always have a
oh,
book,
yeah.
and now it's just like it takes me months to get through a book because I like sit down to read it and I fall asleep like instantly.
That's
It's terrible.
exactly.
Like I'll read a
I,
page or two. So I'm like
yeah.
I basically read a page or two at night. So it takes me months to get through a book.
Right.
And then
Same exact.
and then I get bored with it. I'm like, oh, I'm done with this.
Yeah, and then by the time I get to the end, I'm like, finally, I'm done. Like I don't
Yeah,
enjoy it. I just want to finish it. Then
yeah,
then it makes it even worse if you do get to the ending and you're like, well, that was silly. Like
yeah.
if the book itself, it's like that didn't that was you know
Books on tape, man.
I
Or
know
what? Well, they're not even. I just aged myself to not books on
yeah
tape now.
I
MP4s.
listened yeah right I listened to one a couple years ago. It was a Star Wars one. It was like uh Han Solo and Lando adventure. I think it took place after Return of the Jedi, and I remember being excited for it. And by the end of it, I would listen to it when I was walking outside. And by the end of it, I hated the narrator. and, and the story wasn't very good. And like I'm like, oh, make this stop. Like, you had to finish
Yeah,
it, but just like it was just I'm like the guy's voice was getting on my nerves, and like I was like, no, I think I'm done with the books on tape.
that's really funny. See,
I
now I mostly listen to history,
okay.
so it's usually just like a narrator. Like it's not somebody like trying to do voices or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I
yeah.
know some of them do that.
He didn't do
Yeah,
he did do some voices, but it was I don't know. It was just yeah, just
yeah.
you're like, all right, dude, I'm done with you. Yeah.
It's really funny. So,
Uh,
anyway,
so anyway,
um,
for Star Wars, I hope they can learn a lesson from this,
I
and
yeah,
like we said, just take this and move forward with it, and hopefully we get some more quality productions,
yeah.
going forward.
Give me less and make it more like the.
Yes.
I want less quantity and better quality. So give me,
Yes.
you know
Right.
what I'm saying?
And I think
If you make them all like this, I'm
oh,
on board.
right. Yeah. And I think they've learned their lesson now because between Star Wars, like for Star Wars, the next the Ahsoka season 2 is happening, but other than that, no other TV shows have been announced. They did announce the Darth Maul cartoon. And then other than that, then it seems like more movies. Like they're heading back to the movies again and going to do more
Yeah.
stuff like that. And even Marvel, like I don't know what after Marvel, I mean, I don't think they have any TV shows. I shouldn't say that.
Well, we said Ironheart.
Oh,
When's that?
Ironheart. That's right. That's in June, I think she comes out.
Yeah. No.
And then after that, though, I know they're working on a Vision TV
Oh
show,
yeah. 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 I think right
but it's with White Vision, yeah.
with White Vision.
But again, that's I'm not sure when that's going to be. So there is stuff in the works, but it's not like before. We had used to be like, you'd have that they're
Yeah.
famous for
Every
that
few
board.
months they had to have something out.
Yeah, yeah. And now I feel like they really learned their lesson. Like, look, take it, slow it down, take your time, and if you make, quality over quantity is just going to be is the way to go.
Yeah. God, I mean, because yeah, this is what I want. I need more of this. This is what I
Yes,
need more of.
right. Yeah, yeah.
And then I'll be back. I keep trying to get my son, because he's out on Star Wars. Like he's has
Yeah.
no interest whatsoever. And I keep telling him, I was like, man, you have because he hasn't even seen season one of this, and I was like, you've got to
Oh.
see like I'm telling you, you got to sit down and watch Andor. It's not like any Star Wars you've seen. Like it's
Mhm.
really really good.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I keep trying to get
I
him
know, right.
to do it. We'll see. But yeah, like my
I
whole
know.
family, like they're all out
No,
on Star
yep.
Wars,
My
you
guy's the
know,
same way.
which is
Everybody, yep.
it's really sad. It's really sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, and it just well, like everything though. They just oversaturated it with everything, and
Yeah.
I mean, Marvel did the same thing. I mean, we used to all go see the Marvel movies, the families, everybody
Yeah.
go, and then like with Thunderbolts, Laurie's like, man, I'll go if you want to, but
Yeah,
like,
Bridget was the same way. Like I think she would
yeah.
because I think she has more interest because we both came home and we're like it's really good. So
Oh,
but
okay.
I don't think she's like running out to the theater. She doesn't need to see it
Yeah,
in
right.
there. She's happy to wait until it comes to streaming.
Yeah, and that,
You know.
yeah, I know. So yeah, oh, hopefully they learn their lesson and yeah. get everything back in gear here soon. Hopefully.
I hope so. I hope
I
so.
know.
But Andor is awesome, and if you haven't seen it, and I hope you have because we just spoiled the whole thing.
Spoiled the whole show.
But yeah, it's just outstanding. Go and watch it. It's really really good.
Yeah. All
Watch
right.
it
Go check it
again.
out.
Watch it a
Yeah.
couple
Right.
times. Get those ratings up.
I know. Right.
If there's rating, do they do rating? Are streamings
they
have ratings?
they do. Because I saw something like, yeah, they do something. I'm never sure what to believe though, but I believe, yeah, Andor was doing very good numbers. So
Good.
yeah, so it helps with word of mouth like that. Everyone's talking about it. Like I said, it seems to be successful. So which is very good.
Yeah. Excellent. Good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Do we have
So,
anything
all right.
else?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, we mentioned Ironheart's for Marvel coming up in July or June. Fantastic Four's coming up. Superman's coming up. We haven't talked about that too much, so we'll talk about that
Yeah.
at some point in the future. And that's really about it. Yeah, and for Star Wars, I don't know what's next for Star. Oh, that Tales of the Underworld Star Wars came out, the cartoon on May the
Oh.
4th. It had Cad Bane and
Oh yeah. We talked about that the last time.
Ventress was that. I watched. They're out. I watched them. They were good. They were. Yeah, they're each episode. There's like I think 6 episodes total, and
Okay.
they're like maybe 15 minutes each. Yeah, but they're good. They were enjoyable just for what they were. They were enjoyable. It gave you some sort of showed you how Ventress survived
Okay.
dying, and then Cad Bane sort of his little origin story, which was kind of cute.
Okay.
Cute but interesting. So nothing earth shattering, but I
Yeah, I
enjoyed it.
gotta watch. I haven't watched any of those. I gotta
Yeah,
watch them because you said the
yeah.
Dooku ones were really good.
Yeah, they were. I remember really liking them. I should probably go back and watch them again too. But yeah, there's something just to look at, and they're quick, so it's like 15 minutes for an
Oh,
episode.
I
So
like
you
that.
can, and there's like usually like three about one character, then three about another one. But it's a good way to, just you can get through them very quick.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Excellent.
yeah, but that's about it. I guess we're all set.
Yeah, hopefully I'll catch up on Doctor Who here at some point. Now that this
Yeah,
stuff is all done.
I know, right? Yeah, I've seen my only thing I've seen about that, and not that no spoilers, is the lack of people talking about it. I know the shows are
Yeah.
dropping, and I saw something briefly from I guess the one that aired this week, but like I don't see anybody really talking about it. So I'm kind of like, is
Yeah.
it? I'm like, is it? I don't see anything. Like I don't see people
Yeah.
I don't see people raving. I don't see people bashing, and I just don't see anything, which is kind of concerning. It's like,
Yeah.
all right,
They might have lost. They
yeah,
might have
yeah.
lost everybody. No, but
I know.
I really hope they bounce back. I'm hoping because the first season wasn't great. I'm hoping this season is a lot better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know. We'll have to see, right? I know. I'll have to see.
So,
I might let you watch it first and then tell me.
like what to watch and what to avoid.
I'll let you take the hit, right? Just in case.
That's all right. That's why I'm here, man.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, I guess that'll do us for tonight, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So we're going to wrap up the show. You can check us out on YouTube. We're going to post the show there, and see you can follow us on Facebook and on I don't even know Threads. We're
Threads and
I
Instagram.
Instagram. We're all out there for all
Yeah.
that stuff. So keep an eye out for us, and thanks for joining us tonight. And we will talk to you next time. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.